Well, your family, your business coach, if they don't understand the publishing business, may not see that as productive. But guess what? It is productive because you're learning something. You are educating yourself about story. You are educating yourself more about how story works, and you're developing that sense of story that's inside of you. And I mean, for the love of all that's holy, you deserve to be entertained from time to time.
Right.
I mean, don't let
Exactly.
yourself get so focused and sucked into the work.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pros Talking Prose. Today we are sitting here with Troy and Stacey, and we're going to talk a little bit about publishing and writing because that's what we do. That's what we do
Yeah,
here. So
we
if you
thought we'd give it
haven't,
a try,
we give it
see
a
what
try.
happens. See what happens.
See what happens. So thank you again if you already like and subscribe, but we would really appreciate those buttons. So hit those buttons for us because it does tell the algorithm that we are interesting to some of you out there. So we do appreciate that. Also, just letting you know, Troy and I haven't really seen each other for a couple of it's been a hot
Oh,
minute
yeah.
because he's been busy with family and I've been trying to get ready for this trip, and it's absolutely been chaos. So but I
Yeah.
feel completely lost, and I probably pissed off a couple of my clients because I'm behind on a few projects, but I really do. I love all of you. I promise. I just have so much anxiety about getting on a
You know,
motorcycle for 6 days.
and well, and hey, I mean, this is summertime. Things happen.
Yeah.
Like right now is graduation season. If you have kids
Yeah, that's
graduating from
another
high school,
thing.
I had two nephews graduate. We had a big party on Saturday. We got family in town. There are
It's
more
just
people in
crazy.
my house than belong in my house. Um, not that they're not welcome, just
Yeah.
temporarily. But anyway, you know what I mean. But like, so it's a chaotic time. So maybe take a few minutes, rest, relax, listen to us jabber on. We're going to
Yeah,
jabber on
we're
for a
gonna
little
jabber
bit
on.
about some publishing stuff. And if you've
Yeah.
got stuff going on, I mean, we have an exciting thing happening next week in the middle of Stacy's trip. Actually,
Yeah.
we have Quietly Into the Night. Our first
Quietly
alibi
into the
novel
night is
is releasing.
launching.
We're so excited about that. So
So
we'll put the link to
excited.
that below. And then we will actually also be opening up for submissions the week following that, for a couple of
Yes.
weeks. So if you're
Yes.
if you have a mystery, thriller, noir, or horror that is well polished, please do not send us your first drafts as a submission to a publisher. We'll be open to non-agented submissions.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited about
um,
that too. So yeah, so we're very, very excited. We got a lot of things going on over there at Alibi Syndicate Press. So
yes. Ah,
Um, so anyway, thanks again to everybody who's filled out our AI sentiment survey. We are doing really, really well on collecting those, but we would really like to get a lot more. So if you haven't already sent that up or taken that, or if you haven't sent it out to your communities, that would be really, really helpful. We're trying to get as many of those filled out before the end of the month so that we can have a good snapshot of what we are currently facing in terms of AI in the publishing and writing world. We want you to know that they're not open-ended questions for a very good reason. Several of you
mhm.
have reached out to us and said things like, well, I wish you would have asked specifically why I use it, or what tools specifically I'm using. And that's not really what we're looking for here in this survey. So
Mhm.
I want you to know from the onset, we understand that that's what you guys are feeling, but we are acknowledging that and asking you to just ignore
Right.
that for a minute because that's not
And
what the survey is specifically
part of
looking for.
part of that is we really want data on how you feel, not which specific tools people are using, not which
Now,
specific
how you're using it.
ideas, not how you're using, not even what you're using it for in your business, but how you feel about its current impact and how it's going to have a future impact on publishing in the writing industry. That's why we didn't include those open-ended questions, because it's not that we're not interested in those things, but that's a separate kind of a survey. This is just sentiment about how you feel. That's
Right.
all. So,
Right.
yeah,
So the link of that survey is in the description, and we would really appreciate everybody not only taking that but sharing that with their writer communities as well, because we really need 1,000 of those to make that actually make sense. So we
right.
really appreciate everybody who's helping with that. So on to the topic today, the topic at
Yes.
hand. Troy mentioned this last week in our podcast, and we are going to kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into this, just because it is something that I think a lot of people should acknowledge. I will preface this with the idea of, like, I know what the Pareto principle is and what the power law is, but I am no expert. This is an economic law that's actually been out there in economics for a long, long time. It's not something that I am not an economics professor. I don't tout to be. I
Oh.
don't want to pretend like I am, but we're going to go ahead and apply this particular principle. It's not really, I guess it's not really a law, is it?
Well, no, okay. So
So
let
let's
me
let's talk about what it is
let
first.
me
Can you?
talk about what it is and kind of.
Yeah,
So the only thing I'll say, I want to agree with Stacey, and I am not an economist. Okay, I'm not in any way, but the way I do understand what we call the core power law is I understand how it works in publishing, and that's because
right.
it's very evident by what we see, and this has happened
And that's how we're going to apply it.
regardless of traditional versus indie publishing, regardless of the onset of AI, regardless of anything that has happened in the industry remains what we call a power law industry. And essentially, what that means is probably something that you already know, but I want to preface this by saying what the purpose of this podcast is to give you hope
Right.
in the process of understanding how this industry works.
We're not
Because,
trying to discourage anybody. We're not trying to make
oh
anybody feel
no,
like it's hopeless what you're doing. We really, really just want you to understand how this works so that you can best apply it in your life.
right. And this is about a lot about like managing your expectations
Right.
of what an author career actually looks like. And we've talked about this before. You probably heard Vincent Zandri and I talk about it before, and you've seen his podcast and stuff like that. And we talk about this all the time because what an author career actually looks like and what people are trying to sell you from a stage a lot of times is two different things.
Right.
And that is often because they are on the other side of this. It's basically a bell curve. I don't want to go into all the economic math of it
Mhm.
too deeply, except that essentially the way the core power law works is that is that wealth does not accumulate in an equal way
Right.
in several industries and most societies. Wealth tends to gravitate towards the top where the rich get richer, although that
It's
part of
not
the law is
technically
not really
what it
proven.
is.
That's
Yeah.
not technically true. But it's there's a part of that that's a true part of the principle. But what it basically means is that the wealth tends to accumulate at the top. And what we're talking about by wealth, extreme wealth, right?
Right.
So in the publishing industry, the highest deals, the highest traditional publishing deals,
The
the
most
people with the
successful
most
authors, the most
sales, right?
followers. Yeah. The
The
biggest
most
platforms.
financially successful authors. I want to be we'll talk about that, what financially successful actually means in a minute. But the
Right.
ones that people see as financially successful: Lee Child, Stephen King, James Patterson. Um, I know there's
J.K.
ones on the
Rowling.
romance side: J.K. Rowling's, Stephanie Meyer, E.L. James. I know there's tons of other ones on in different genres that I'm probably missing. Shout them out in the comments. Wonderful, fantastic for all those
Diane
people.
Steele.
Danielle Steele.
Danielle
Danielle
Steele.
Steele.
Danielle
Oh
Steele.
my goodness. Yes. But you know what I mean? Nicholas Sparks,
Right.
that type of thing, right? There are people that are really popular. They're almost household names. People, R.L. Stein, people know their names as
Hmm.
authors. They don't, again, like we talked about before, authors are not rock stars. Many people don't know what these people look like. They wouldn't
Right.
recognize them if they saw them on the street, but they are well known by name, and they make a majority of the money in the publishing industry. When it comes to traditional advances, they get the biggest advances. And many other authors don't get advances at all. They get the biggest push from the marketing departments.
This is in the
Other
traditional
authors
side
don't
too,
get.
by the ways,
Yes,
everybody. So we're talking about the traditional side of
traditional
publishing,
traditional side of
and even
publishing, and
indie,
in the indie side. The
but
indie
we're
side,
just
the reason is that for things to be 100% equal in the indie side, what it would mean is that everyone's effort has equal value and that everyone puts in the same amount of effective
effort,
effort to market their work, right?
and we
And
know that's not
this
true.
is that we know that's not true. And but we also, I want to dispel the myth that if you just hustle hard enough and put in enough of the effective work, that you'll automatically rise to the other side of this bell curve. Not true. There are other factors involved that are simply luck, simply those authors that are already established that you're kind of bucking against, but you
Yeah,
don't
right.
have to. We're going to talk about how you don't have to. But essentially, that's what the core power law is. If you look at it in economic systems, what it basically says is that generally speaking, 10% or
It's
in some
20,
principles, 20% of the
right?
people make 90% of the money,
Right.
right? That's just, and this is just a principle that just is proven to be relatively close to true. It's not an exact science, so don't try to
Yeah,
separate
they're
out
not
the
exact
GDP of your.
numbers. It's a theory, and it's
It's a
just, but it's
theory
but you'll see
that's
it
it.
in not in multiple governments, and we don't want to go political
Mhm.
here, but you're going to see it in multiple government systems, not just capitalism. You'll see it in socialist
Yep.
governments as well. This is just the way it works. And so I want people to understand we're not going to go political here. I don't want any
Oh
political, don't
no.
come at us in the comments about politics, and we don't care about that. That's not what
Yeah.
we're talking about. We're talking about publishing, and we're going to talk about
Yeah.
how this works for you and why we're dispelling this specifically right out of the gate is because we want you to understand and try. You made a good point about this before we even started recording, but that was that if you understand and know this out of the gate, and you understand and know that this is the way it works, it takes a lot of pressure off of you to try to be
Hmm.
at the top of this curve because you feel like you have to be. And that's and I liked your example about the coffee shop. um I
Yes.
used
Well,
I
yeah.
used this example with myself, but if you could tell everybody what you meant or
Right.
what the coffee
So
shop
the example
principle
that I
is.
used before we started recording is our local, like I have a local coffee shop near me that I love. It's called Border Town Coffee. If you're in the,
If you're in
Ontario, Fruitland,
Fruitland,
Idaho, Podunk, Idaho
Podunk,
area, and you want a good coffee, this is a great place to go,
we're
right?
they're not paying
Bor-
us, by the way, for
no,
promotions. We're
not
just saying that.
sponsored. This is not sponsored by Bordertown Coffee. This might be, but the podcast is not. But anyway, okay. But the point of the thing is, they are not Starbucks.
Right.
They will never be Starbucks, but they're not trying to be. They are one of the best local coffee shops in the area. They have a line that's almost as long as the Dutch Brothers line that's
Oh, wow.
nearby, right? Which is
Mm,
pretty impressive.
that is
Dutch Brothers
impressive.
have Dutch
They have
Brothers puts nicotine in all of their drinks so people are addicted to them.
We're totally
That's
addicted.
not true. That is not true. It's cocaine. No, that's not true either. No, no, no. But
Totally
if
addicted.
and if you're
I
from
gotta
another
get
part of the
it.
country where they don't have Dutch Brothers, I'm sorry, first of
Don't
all,
get
that you don't have
started.
Dutch Brothers, and don't start. It's a
Don't
terrible
start.
habit. But anyway, but the point of that is that they make coffee just like everybody else makes coffee, but they
Right.
make really great coffee in this area. They have really great service. They have a fantastic menu. And so, but they are not Starbucks. They do
Right.
not have international locations. They don't have locations in New York. Also, their location in a small town means that there's only so much growth they can experience
Right.
in this area, right? There's only so much because there's only so many people.
Right.
So when Stacy and I are talking about micro community, what we're talking about is selling your books in the small town of publishing in which you live and
Right.
stop trying to sell like someone that's in New York. You don't have that many people coming by your shop every
Unless you're in New
day
York. But
unless you're
yeah.
in New York,
Yeah.
right? So the idea is, look, You can make a fine living. The owners of that shop are making a fine living off of that coffee shop. They are not making Starbucks CEO money, but they don't care because that's not what they're trying to do.
And
They're
and
just
I
trying to be the best in our area.
and I will bring this down to the publishing world here a little bit. I remember a couple years back, it was probably about the time that I was going to the Idaho Editors and Writers Association. And it was probably about the same time that Kristen Iris had told me to niche down. And I was like, oh my gosh. Sorry about my dog. They're excited. They're getting a treat right now. But anyway, it's that time of day. Anyway, so they when I got told that advice, I remember having a heart to heart with myself and coming home and realizing that as much as I've grown, as much as Troy and I have grown since we've combined efforts, as much as big as our community is that we're trying to build, we also realize that we're never going to be Macmillan. We're never going to be Random
Right.
House. We're never going to be these huge publishers. We don't intend to be. In fact, when we built out Alibi Syndicate and we were talking about what we really wanted to do, one of the things that he and I looked at each other and we were like, we want to be very personal and selective about who we bring on and how many projects we work on because there's only two of us and we don't intend on bringing on a huge staff. And there's a reason, and
Right.
that's because I'm a control freak. And I intend on making sure that my eyeballs and my hands are on every project because I want to make sure that those projects are handled with that kind of care and personalized attention. And I lose that when we bring on excessive amounts of staff. Troy and I wanted to make sure
Right.
that we were staying individual. And so when we turned around and we did that, we realized that the growth, the wealth, the potential for this business, it scales down. And we've turned ourselves into this it's okay attitude in that bell curve. We recognize that there's a bell curve. We recognize that we have huge competitors out there that do close to the same thing we do, but we don't care. We are the small town coffee shop. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I'm hoping that makes sense for
Absolutely.
everybody out there. And you can turn around and you can do the
Right.
same thing with your own books.
And you as an indie author, like I have known a lot of indie authors that have, you know, a mailing list of let's say 5,000 people, right?
Right.
Which you think that sounds really amazing until you know about authors that have a 50,000 person mailing list,
Right.
right?
And churn
But
rates
they
and
have
open rates and all
5,000
that
people on
stuff.
their mailing list, but those 5,000 people care about them.
Right.
Those 5,000 people buy their books when they come out. Those people tell their friends about their books. So these authors make a comfortable living. You don't know who they are unless you read in their genre. You don't see them in the top 50 on Amazon or the top 100 on Amazon. Sometimes they'll break into the top 100, but most of the time, and probably right after a launch, most of the time they're kind of hanging in the middle of the list. Everything is going fine for them. They're making a
Mhm.
living. Their fans are happy. If they sell direct, their fans are buying from them. Their fans are even buying merchandise and things from them. But if you see that merchandise out in the wild, in the street, if you don't read in their genre, you don't know that author, you're not going to know what that means,
Right.
right? It's not going to mean anything to you. The reason is they're operating inside of a micro community, inside of their small town, and nobody outside of that small town has heard of them, and they don't care. They stopped aspiring to be something that they're not and chose instead to be authentic, to be who they are, and to reach those fans that really enjoy them, right?
Right.
It's if you let go of the idea that financial success as an author means six figures and just say financial success as an author means I go to the grocery store and my debit card works, right? And
Right.
like I would tell people when I first started out, they'd be like, well, I haven't heard of you, or oh, you're indie published, or you're indie and traditional published. How does that work out? All that kind of stuff is I'm like, well, I go to pay my rent and I have money in the bank. I go to pay for my groceries. But I'm like, one of the things you should probably do if you want to be an author full time and you think that's what you want to do is make a living as an author, is adjust what you mean by make a living.
Right.
I live a relatively simple relatively inexpensive life, except for the gas in my truck right now. But you can all feel that pain, and
We
we're
all
not going to
feel that
get
right now.
political, right?
No.
But the reality of the situation is that I live a relatively simple life. I
Mhm.
live in a relatively simple place. I don't have the newest car. I don't have a Tesla Cybertruck outside in my driveway. Otherwise,
Thank
I'd
the
be
maker.
complaining less about gas, but then my neighbors would throw stuff in it thinking it was a dumpster. Okay, wait, I'm not getting political. I forgot. Okay, okay. But, but
I hate those damn trucks. I'm
back
so
up.
sorry if
Oh
you drive
man.
one.
Look,
Uh,
here's the thing too. I was on the list. I had a reservation for one, and
oh
it came up,
no.
and I thought about flipping it. I was going to buy it and flip it. It was the Founders Edition, that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
I decided not to. And right after that is when the Founders Editions stopped being valuable to flip. So I probably would have had a $120,000 paperweight that I could not afford, that was in my driveway,
Oh.
worth as much as my house. No. Okay. So anyway, but all that being said, the point is, I don't need Cybertruck money to be a success as an author. I
Right.
can have F-150 money and be perfectly happy. We can drive a 10-year-old RAV4 and still be happy, right? The difference is your perception of what success means. Because if you're going to operate in a system that operates on a power law, like the publishing system, no matter how much effort you put in, without some luck and without some other factors that are literally things you cannot control, you don't just fall onto the other side of the bell curve and suddenly you're making millions of dollars. That's not how that works. Now, sometimes that does
Sometimes,
work.
sometimes it
I
works.
mean,
Right.
you look at
Hmm.
Hugh Howey and how he started out, and part of his was he started out with exceptional timing when it came to self-publishing. We had
Hmm.
some exceptional data at the time that we were using to make sure that we found success in the markets, things like that. There was a data guy, if you guys remember back in those days, um, that was on keyboards, and we were all talking about all this stuff, right? And then Wool got picked up as a movie, which is now Silo, right? It got options, and then 10 years later got made. But I mean, by that time, book sales were pretty amazing. But most of you, again, would probably not know Hugh Howey if he walked into the room, although you would say he's way more handsome than I am, and thank the maker and all that stuff. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who he is, probably, and how
Hmm.
he looks, you might, but um, he has made a living for himself. But part of the reason he's made a living for himself is that, comparatively speaking, he lives rather simply. He
Hmm.
literally lives on a sailboat now, and every one of his possessions, all of his possessions, fit on that sailboat. Okay,
And that,
that's a
yeah,
different lifestyle,
that's a
right?
different lifestyle. Exactly. And we're not saying that you can't aspire for more. Like that is something that you
Oh
certainly
no.
can. Just recognize and know that there's going to be some some things that, like Troy said, there's some things that you cannot control, especially in this industry. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of pivot on in this podcast today is specifically about this, like how we understand there's things you can't control, and that a lot of this business is kind of based on luck,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate, but also interesting for those who actually hit that, and really we love that for them. But what I wanted to kind of do is, what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us who are sitting down here and we're just like, okay, well, I just wanted, I want to make my coffee shop work, right? So what do you do? So what I would like to do is then take this power law, this, bell curve, and I want you to apply it to your activities. And
Hmm.
so if
I have a
you,
list, by the way.
okay, good, good.
I have
I'm
a
excited.
list.
That's good. I'm glad, because I don't, but I will say
Oh, okay.
this. I will ask everybody out there, if you only had 5 hours a week to dedicate to your author career, what are some things that you would stop doing to make that more successful, to make yourself more productive? So let's just start with that question. Like, if you just had a limited amount of time, a little bit amount of effort, a little bit amount of you know abilities, talent, whatever, how would you change the way you approach your author business? And I'm going to take this outside of author business just for a second. We're going to teach as a parable here for a second.
Yes.
So this last couple weeks, my husband has been very excited about this motorcycle trip we're about to go on. And it is, first of all, just if you, one of these days I'll break down the whole reason I'm even on the back of a motorcycle with him, but in the first place, because that was something I never thought in a million years that I would be doing. But it's something that my husband loves and enjoys. And it's something that if I want to be part of that marriage, I participate in. But this man likes to throw me on the back of a motorcycle for days at a time. And we go on these very long road trips. And we're about to go on our one of our bucket list trips, which is to go down the PCH. And so there's a few things that I'm going to do, and there's a few things that he wants to do. I'm going to go see, some haunts by John Steinbeck's haunts. I'm going to see, William Hearst's,
Oh, yes.
mansion and stuff. We have an author that researches William, uses him as one of his main characters in his books. And so I figured this is something I'm going to go check out the Hearst mansion. I'm going to go check out the Winchester mystery mansion, because of course, everybody says it's haunted.
Yes.
And I think I should go down there and check out what that crazy lady was up to for once in my life. A few things like Hans Christian Andersen, so there's a few things that we're going to do that are book related. I'm actually going to stop and pick up some books from one of my clients on the way home and things like that. But so anyway, so that's kind of how I make it my trip, but then my husband gets to throw me on the back of a motorcycle. My point is that this is these kind of trips, there's a lot more than just throwing a few bags into the back of a car and going. The logistics on riding a motorcycle, Troy understands, and those of you who ride understand, there's a lot more involved in the planning of that kind of trip, because there's less you can take, there's more you have to prepare for. And like, for example, rain. Like when you're on the back of a motorcycle, rain is a totally different prospect than sitting in your car. So you have to plan for those things, and those unforeseeable events that you just don't, like, it's not in the forecast, but what do you know? Like it happens. So things like that. So just understanding and knowing that there's a lot that goes into that. The last couple of days specifically, I have spent more hours prepping for that trip than I have been anything else, because my mental capacity, my anxiety, all of the things that go into prepping for a trip this long and this, involved. Yeah. Intricate. It takes a lot more brain space than I have for other things. So I haven't been able, so other things that I wanted to do, I've had to sidestep and like put on the back burner, including seeing my best friend, who is kind of mad at me right now, because there's like I haven't been able to do everything. Right. So I need people to understand that happens for all kinds of things. Troy right now has a bunch of family in town, and he has a partner that just loves to be social, and she does a lot of fun things. And a lot of times when she comes home from work, she expects this man to spend time with her. Imagine. So she will come home and she will get mad if he and I are in the middle of a business meeting when she comes home from work. Like she'll be like, wait a minute. So you have to recognize and understand that priorities are part of this business in a huge way. And that power law applies to this as well. So that was kind of a long way of explaining, but it's just understand and know that activities need to be kind of brought down here. And not all of the activities that you want to spend time on are productive. So
and
there's that aspect of it too.
There's another aspect of it too, because what I also don't want you to do is rob your life of any joy, because you are spending so much time, because you can. This publishing and author thing can literally take over your life. Here's the thing, unless you want to live 100% by yourself and probably be depressed at times, you don't you really don't want to do that.
And
Okay.
then
Now, I
this
mean,
could
if you
be
do,
true with every
I
aspect
mean,
of life. Like honestly,
right.
you can have unhealthy balances, but this one's easy to suck the life out of you because it's
It
really
is the
easy.
reason. So here is the danger of doing your passion and what you love as also your way of making a living is often that this becomes your life.
Right.
And so accommodating for other people and their desires and their lives can sometimes be challenging because you're like, I don't want to.
Especially
Stacy
when
could
your
be like, "Hey,
muse,
Will, I love what I'm doing with my business. We have all these things going on, so I'm not going with you down the coast.
yeah,
You can go by yourself." Right? That's not a very good choice for your relationship as
exactly.
much as you think, well, this might be good for my business, right?
Right.
So there's that aspect of it as well. But so I don't want to, because what will happen a lot of times in conferences and stuff is you will get people who come up on stage and they emphasize being productive, right? Being productive, being productive. Part of the joy of writing though is that sometimes I am not productive. I mean, and there because and in some ways it is productive, but it's what I call side productivity because people measure productivity by like word count. But
Right.
what about that research that you did? Or like right now, the book that I'm finishing up right now, which I'm so excited about, I actually have written songs for it. Well, guess what I had to do to write songs?
I
I
had
had
to
to
learn.
research how to write a song. Like I couldn't just so some days the word count is 16
Right.
because that's all I got out in the song. I deleted probably 400 words, but that's all that actually goes into the manuscript. If I measure my productivity by that, I wasn't very productive. There are also times when just doing that research is very joyful. I was talking with a writer about this yesterday. In our school community, I have the Plot Dudes Rug Room. If you're in my course, if you're one of our VIP
I love
members,
that.
you can jump in and join that. It was super fun. And I was talking to this gal about productivity and about how both of us like to research. She comes from a journalism background. I come from a researching background. Okay, so here's the thing. What ends up in the manuscript is he pulled his Glock 9. But by the time that happens, I know everything there is to know about a Glock 9. I know exactly how much it weighs, what capacity magazines I can get for it, what all of that exactly looks like. The reader sees none of that.
Right.
Please don't let the reader
Yeah,
see any of
please
that. If you have us
don't
edit your
write all
work,
of
I
that.
will just cut it out. But anyway, so don't write all that into the manuscript. But did I have fun researching that? Yeah. Was it enjoyable? Yeah. Can that information maybe come in handy later? Well, I don't know. My research of poisons hasn't come in handy yet, but the day is young. As I said, I have lots of family in town. There's things that I can anyway. Um, this is not admissible in court. None of this is anyway. But I mean, look, but what I'm saying is
Mhm.
sometimes that research is really fun. Also, I encourage people to study story, which means I want you to read and consume story in various
Right.
different formats,
Exactly.
right? Well, your family, your business coach, if they don't understand the publishing business, may not see that as productive. But guess what? It is productive because you're learning something. You are educating yourself about story. You are educating yourself more about how story works, and you're developing that sense of story that's inside of you. And I mean, for the love of all that's holy, you deserve to be entertained from time to time.
Right.
I mean, don't let
Exactly.
yourself get so focused and sucked into the work that because the truth is, even if you put all of that hustle effort into everything being productive, got 5,000 words today, I got this done, I got that done, I got that new cover commissioned, I got this done. What did you do to take care of yourself? Well, I really didn't drink enough water because I never left my desk. I didn't eat properly because I had
Oh
to
my
snack
gosh.
on chips all day long. That walk I was going to take with the dog, poor dog doesn't get his walk. You know what I mean? All of those different things. You neglect all of that because, well, I was so productive. Okay, you're so productive, you're going to die. So don't do that. Okay, don't do that.
I will.
Because
I'm.
all that
I'm.
effort will not lead to success necessarily.
I'm going to use a very good example of this, and it's going to kind of it's very telling because it tells on you and me, but it's a good example of this. So a few years ago, Troy was the president of the Idaho Writers Guild. And Troy, yeah, poor guy, I'm
Yeah.
making trauma. I'm sorry. I should have warned you.
PTSD.
Right.
I have a
Um,
seizure over here.
yeah, well, it was a good effort. And when Troy took over, a lot of us were very excited because we understood that Troy has a vision and he has ideas and intention and heart and and know-how and knowledge. And so we were a lot of us locally were very excited about it. But at the same time, there was a lot that Troy was trying to change in a short period of time. At the time, we were also planning a conference. The conference was ambitious. He had some good, really exciting guests, and we were really excited about it. Unfortunately, there were maybe only a handful of us or less, and I could count probably all of us on one hand that were helping Troy with this endeavor. There was not very many people that were actively participating in the efforts to make this conference come to life. And so when you're doing a conference, that is something that is very difficult to do with just a handful of people. Especially with the knowledge that some of those people come to the table with, like, or lack thereof. So at the time, I had my normal workload that I was usually under, and I offered to help. And I don't know if I actually became a formal member of the board, but I remember that I was participating on the conference
Yeah.
committee, and so I was willing to do that. And so we were doing a lot of work, and like I said, a lot of that work that needed to be done, there was not a lot of people that understood or knew how to do that work. And
Yeah.
so I was taking on a bulk amount of work when it came to like preparing for the materials that needed like to be done, like graphics and literature and like advertising and banners and all kinds of stuff that needed to
Mhm.
happen. And so there was a lot of that going on that I was helping with. I was helping with a lot of that. Was my end of the thing. I was participating in a lot of the board meetings. Troy equally had all his tasks he was dealing with. He was managing the website, the advertising. He was trying to get on, to TV and radio spots. Like we were trying really, really hard to promote this thing. He was also managing all the guest appearances, their travel arrangements. Like there was just so much involved, and there were so many people that we just didn't have help from. And so
Mhm.
it was like it became a
Yeah.
huge part of our lives. Like the bulk of our lives were spent trying to get this conference
Right.
to be successful.
Everyone involved was spread super thin, and all of
Super
us were
thin.
working beyond our capacity.
Hours and
And
hours,
essentially, like
hours.
what was supposed to be a part-time thing of helping people turned into, and I understand from some of the people that worked with the guild in the past, this is what has happened in the past as well. And it's almost kind of a power law system of its own, but that's a whole other
Mm-hmm.
discussion. But essentially, like we were beyond our capacity, stretched thin. We were neglecting other parts of our lives that we should have been,
Literally.
ways that we actually made money. We were neglecting those for the sake of a nonprofit, of a not for profit, and trying to make things successful. I was investing parts of my own money and my
Me
own
too.
time in making things
Mm-hmm.
happen. Stacy was doing the same. We were printing things, we're doing all kinds of stuff. Um, and it turned into basically essentially what happened was it spun out of control to the point where it was controlling our lives to the point where we just couldn't do it anymore.
And I will tell
And
you
you
exactly what
know
happened to me as I ended up having a mental breakdown. Now, here's something you're going to learn about what happened with Stacy. I literally at one point got into the car. And this is after my husband said something to me. I don't even remember what he said to me, but at the time I was telling him I needed him to enclose my office. I was like, I can't focus. I can't do anything. I had multiple clients waiting for projects that I was completely ignoring. I was making excuses after excuse, like, I'm so sorry, I'm working on this conference, I'm trying to get it, pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. I was the worst. It was the worst. I had a couple of very understandable clients, but I had a couple that were new to me, and they weren't as forgiving. And so, understandable. I'm not saying that they should have been. I'm saying that they were well within their rights to be frustrated with me. But I was feeling all this pressure. And at the time, also personal, in my personal life, I had taken on 2 foster sons, and there was an extremely difficult situation with their father. And their father was, sorry about my computer, everything's like going crazy. Their father is dangerous, and I was feeling exceptionally vulnerable. And so I was about ready to lose my mind. And my husband was building this office doors for me so I could close myself in here like a crated elephant. And at one point, he said something to me that made me mad. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got into the car and I drove to Baker, Oregon. I wanted to go see that beautiful waterfall that's out there.
Oh,
I was just heading out there, and my intention was to never come home again. I was like, I'm done. After I see this waterfall, I'm going to jump. Like, I was like so mad at my life.
oh,
I was not happy. Um, and what's funny is I got to Baker, and here's the diva. This is so telling. I get to Baker and I'm tired. I don't like to drive alone. So I get to Baker and I'm hungry, and I'm like, okay, I'm hungry, and I forgot my wallet.
oh no.
So I'm in Baker and I'm hungry, and all I have with me is my phone. And I'm not answering phone calls from any of my family. They're like, "Where are you? Where are you?" And I'm like, I turned off my location. I was like, I'm not telling anybody where I'm
Oh,
at. So I go to McDonald's and I only have my phone to be able to pay, right? Get myself some chicken nuggets, and I sit in a dog park, eating my chicken nuggets and take a nap. And when I wake up, I realize how stupid I am. And I came back, and we went through the conference and I did everything and I came back to life. But I need you to understand the whole reason for this very long story is to let you know that Troy and we spread ourselves out way, way too thin. And ultimately, the conference, while it was what I would consider a relative success, the IWG imploded after that. Like, it just fell apart. The board fell apart. There was like 3 or 4 of us that were only operating after the conference. We needed a new president because Troy was just like, I'm not doing this. We couldn't find a new president. Nobody was willing to step up. And so it was like, it literally just kind of, the whole organization just kind of went.
mhm.
And luckily there's currently, it looks like it's on the
There's people
rebound,
there's people bringing it back,
which is
but
great,
I think that they're moving a little more slowly, which is probably a
which
good
is
idea.
perfect.
But
Yeah.
the point of the idea
But
is
the
like, because
point
I
is
have
that
been at the point more than once to be like Stacy, where I was like, I am going to drive away and
and
I'm not
never
going to
come
tell
home.
anybody where I am. And I'm like, I wasn't going to jump anywhere. I'm going to Mexico. I'm going wherever, but I will find a place to hole up and write under a pen name and still collect my little Amazon
Yeah.
royalties
And just
and figure out how
not,
to make this living from writing alone. I'm never going to edit another manuscript for a client
yeah.
again. I'm never going to. And so part of that, though, is so
It's not balance.
to
That's
bring
my
it down
point.
to
It's like
real,
balance. It's balance.
it's not balanced. So you as an author need to maintain balance because no matter what effort you
Mhm.
put in, there are obstacles that are going to stand in your way of being on the other side of that power law that are things that you can't control, right? So we want you to set yourself up for success, but don't count on that being your financial success.
Right.
Revise your idea of what success as an author is looks for you so that it is reasonable within your abilities and so that you don't burn out. The other aspect of that I just want to introduce here is that we have people that approach us from time to time and want us to do something for them right now.
Right.
Here's why we say no. Is because I don't want Stacey to get into a car and drive away from home. And I don't want
But
to either. And
but
my
also
partner does not want me to do that.
but it's
Right.
also the thing is though that I need everybody to understand out there is that there's nothing in this business that has ever in
An
the
emergency.
publishing industry ever. One, nothing in this publishing business is ever an emergency, ever. Usually it's something that can be handled and dealt with and it's fine and it takes, but nothing in this business works immediately. In fact, when you publish right now, as fast as you publish right now, you can hit the publish button and then within 24 hours, your book can show up on Amazon. That doesn't mean that your book will show up anywhere else without days and sometimes a week or two of synchronizing, like across platforms. Like nothing works fast in this business. Nothing. I have
Well,
learned like nothing works fast here.
except, I mean, so we are in the Amazon Prime age,
Right.
right? It used to be before self-publishing became a very viable method of publishing,
Mhm.
that it would take you potentially months or years for your work to appear on shelves. So
Right.
people that complain that it took it took Apple Books through Draft to Digital 7 days to approve my title. My God, man.
Wow. That's
My
fast.
God. You waited a week? Holy cow. I mean, there, and this the other thing that's happening is as we see this shift towards that self-publishing very soon may no longer be free, that it may cost you to upload titles. This is in part
Mhm.
reaction to AI. We're not going to go down that road. That's another podcast
Not
for another
today.
time.
Yeah.
But
Follow us.
but
We'll talk more about that.
the point of that though is that up until that point, publishing had never been
It's
free.
never been free.
Like you sacrificed something. You sacrificed time. You sacrificed your rights and a contract to a publisher who could literally make or break your career.
Who paid you less
And
than
that
5
was
to 10%
entirely
of your
their
royalties?
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was entirely their choice what happened to your material, to your book, to your story. Like
Hmm.
you had no rights.
It's
You
never been
had
free.
no, this has never been a situation. Publishing has always been a pay now or pay later game. If you're going to do it professionally as an indie, you pay for cover designers, formatters, editors, all that kind of stuff. If
Hmm.
not, you pay for it in royalties later with a publisher who
Hmm.
may or may not have your best interests at heart. They only have their best interests at heart.
Hmm.
So this has never been an easy game. It has never been an instant game. It has never been a free game. So the fact that we've had free opportunities for self-publishing, which is amazing, the fact that those might go away is not really that bad compared to the way things used to be,
Right.
right? The
It's
fact that
still
people
more
say,
fair than it used to be.
right, people say the draft to digital fee is not fair because of people in third world countries that wait 3 days, that's 3 days wages for them. In the past, people in third world countries like that could not ever get noticed by a publisher and their stuff would never be published.
When
The
some
game has never been fair.
when
The game has
somebody
never been
sits
free.
down with
Never.
me and they say, Stacey, can I make payments because I'm asking them to pay me what could be potentially 3 to 4 months of their wages? It's not like that is something that I don't take for granted, but also people need to understand that that is something that is normal. Like that is the
Right.
normal. So like I need everybody to understand that going forward, but also on this 80-20 power law thing, I need people to understand that that's why we are so very careful with our clients' time, but also with our own. We understand how this job and this business can literally suck everything out of you because when I
Mm-hmm.
take a client's money like that, I want to make sure that they understand and know that I am taking care of them. And the guilt that comes from me going, oh, I'm going to take the next week and sit on the back of a motorcycle and I can't work because I'm on the back of a motorcycle. That takes a lot of mental like anguish for me to kind of
Oh,
suppress because I'm like,
yeah.
Troy is about to launch
No.
quietly into the night. I'm out of town. Like, like it's
Yeah,
like,
and the thing is, there's always a lot of things going on.
yeah.
A year, I think it's 2 years ago now, March, I took my first vacation in 10 years without my
Yeah.
laptop when I went to Hawaii. Let me tell you, it felt freaking weird. It also
Right.
felt kind of good. And I felt like maybe I should do this more often, but it also felt really weird because we are
Yeah.
so dedicated to this business.
Right.
So when you send me an email that says, I had a guy a few weeks ago that, well, it's probably about a month and a half ago now, that sent me an email and said, I need you to do this list of things right now
Right.
for me, and I will pay you to do it. And I said, no.
Right.
And he said, what do you mean? I'm like, I cannot abandon all the other clients that I already have slotted, abandon
Exactly.
everything that I have, not spend time with my family, not do any of those things in order to accomplish this task for you. The answer is no, not because I don't care about you, not because I don't care about your story, not because your story doesn't matter, but because you cannot do things on a timeline like that. You can't walk
Not in
in and
this
expect me
business
to
anyway.
drop everything for you, not in
And
this
I will
business,
and I will
you
tell
know?
you that if somebody does do that for you, if you get a hold of somebody and they say, "Yes, I'm going to do that." I want you to actually that's a red flag. It's a very big red flag. And
Mhm.
because they're probably lying to you. In fact, I was just on the YouTubes the other day, and there's this gal that I follow that talks about like news in the bookish world. She's actually more like a gossip columnist for the bookish world. But one of the things that she was talking about is an editor. And of course, my ears perked up because I'm like, oh, who's she talking about? Because this is a very small world, right? We
Mhm.
run into circles that, yeah, there's a lot of people, but they're, like Troy said, the bell curve, you kind of know the top 20%, and you kind of know who's out there. So I wanted to see who she was talking about. And it wasn't anybody I knew, but it was apparently this editor who's been neglecting, she's been taking money and not finishing work. And so it's been like,
Mhm.
she doesn't operate with contracts, another red flag. I have a whole podcast and a whole list on my website that you guys can access about how to hire an editor and what to look for. And contracts is number
Mhm.
like one or two. But
Yeah, whether
anyway,
you will hire us or not,
no,
there are
yeah, there's
red
some there's
flags
some
to
red
look
flags.
for.
But the one of the red
Yeah.
flags is that they don't have a waiting list, because oftentimes any editor that's worth their weight in gold is going to have a longer waiting list because there's only so many hours in a day, and there's
Mhm.
only so much we can work on at a time. And even though like right now, Troy and I often will go through our like to-do list and we'll talk about how many people we're juggling. Right now, I think we're juggling about between 17 and 18 clients
Yeah.
right now, like
Like at
currently
this moment,
at this
and some
moment.
of them
And
big
that's a
projects.
lot.
And let me
Yeah.
add to this real quick that if you get somebody in the industry that says, I will squeeze you into my time because I understand your
I'll say
circumstances
that
and
sometimes
I'll
too.
squeeze you into my calendar, but these are the stipulations with me squeezing you into their calendar. If you come back at me with some impatient emails at that point, you can count on one thing happening, and that is that I will no longer work
I'll
with you.
just yeah, or I'll just put you at the back of the
Or I'll
list
just put you
because
at the back at the end of my calendar. If
right.
I make a sacrifice because of your circumstances to work on your stuff faster and you betray that
Yeah.
and push me, what that does to me, it tells me you don't, it's not only that you don't respect me and the work that I'm doing, you don't respect the other clients that are
The
waiting for
other
things.
clients, that's the thing. Yeah, like
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 that
that
is,
people need to
I'm being
understand.
completely unfair to them in
Yeah,
order to accommodate something that you need, that I perceive that is
exactly.
actually an urgent need that you need. And by doing that, I'm making a sacrifice, and they are, by extension, making a sacrifice as well, in that they're generally very understanding if I have to put things off a little bit because something has come up, right? So don't do that. But anyway, here, the point of it relating back to your own writer life is that, first of all, you don't have any emergencies. If you have set yourself a deadline, awesome. Achieve that deadline. If you set that deadline for your reader community, your micro community that you built, yes, meet that deadline if at all possible. If you can't, just tell them what happened.
Yeah.
Hey, I was going to meet this deadline, but my book cover designer could not meet my deadline, or this could not happen. But the other thing is set your deadlines for further out so that you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about
We
that thing
should talk
happen, those
about
things
deadlines
happening.
actually. Yeah, we should
Which,
talk about
yes,
that.
we should talk. We'll talk about that on another podcast for sure. But the point is with the power law thing is that you are going to be operating in this small community of people. And just like Stacy said, the writing and the editing and all of that, even though you may see it as a vast community, relatively speaking to the population of our country and to the world, the people who do this, even in a professional way, even if you don't make a living at it yet, is a very small percentage of people. It's just a very small percentage of people that actually
We
finish
see the
writing a
same
book.
people at Author Nation every year.
Yes. And I mean, this is the thing is that the number of people that actually finish a book relative to the population of people who say they want to write a book is very small. Those who
Mm-hmm.
move on to publish it is even smaller. Those who publish it successfully and actually make money from it is even smaller. And
Mm-hmm.
so even with AI and with all these other things coming on, it's still that percentage is still very small, right? And the
Exactly.
people doing it professionally is still a relatively small group. So there are times when you really do not want to, first of all, you really don't want to tick off that group. But second of all, just realize you're already in a very small pond. And yes, a lot of the money is going to accumulate at one end, at the deeper end of that pond. But that doesn't mean there's no money in the rest of the pond. And that doesn't mean
Right.
you can't move throughout the pond throughout your career. There's sometimes when you'll make more money, sometimes when you make less. It's perfectly okay. You're going to be okay. But what we need you to do is just understand the level of success that is possible for you that is in your control can take you to a certain level. Beyond that, you're going to need things to happen, circumstances to happen around you that you cannot control.
Right.
So, okay, awesome. But if you manage your expectations and learn to live with what's realistic rather than, my grandpa would always say, you don't pay the groceries with the lottery, right? You don't go spend your grocery money on lottery tickets hoping that you'll win enough from the lottery tickets to have even more grocery money.
Yeah. And I grew
No,
up in Las
that's not the way it
Vegas. Let
works.
me tell
Yeah,
you,
you grew
that
up in
does not
Vegas.
work.
Yeah, I've seen people over and over. I know a gal who moved away from Vegas because she had a gambling problem,
Oh,
moved to
yeah.
Boise, said Boise was boring, moved back to Vegas, lost all
Mm,
her shit, and then
yeah.
had all her stuff, and then had to move, and then had to move back, right?
Mhm.
Because that gambling is an addiction because you think I'm gonna win the
And
next time,
this
right?
this
We're
business
not
can
gambling and
be.
publishing.
you
Let's
you don't
do let's do
yeah, we don't want
business.
to do
Let's not
that. Yeah,
gamble.
so let me mention some other things on the writing side. So like in
Oh
terms of
yeah,
this time and effort, because you do have a list. I want
I
to get
did
to
have my
that list.
list. It'll be
Yeah.
quick. It'll be a quick
Yeah.
list. I promise.
So, but on the writing side, many authors they spend a lot of time on like researching endlessly, or playing with fonts, or like you can go down these major rabbit holes. And this is when like in my class this next month, I'm going to be talking about like when to bring in, when to hire people, when to actually bring in resources and hire out and do those kinds of things. Because like a lot of times authors will spend time down these rabbit holes because they think they have to know and learn everything, and they don't. But like these things, the writing side, it can literally, like Troy said, we can spend like loads of time doing things that don't really make the money for you or are not productive. So the 80% of us that do that kind of thing, that's like 80% of the time doing that can really suck the life out of your business. What you want to do is you want to focus on that 20% of stuff that actually is productive. The 20% of the successful authors, what they do is they write consistently. They
Right.
finish projects, like Troy said, they finish their projects, they finish their draft,
Yes.
and they study story, right? So those
Hmm.
are the things that are like more more productive on the writing side. On the publish or on the marketing side of things, you could spend loads of time learning how to do graphic design, or you could obsess over your follower count, right? And like sit there and play on Instagram for like, don't even get me started on the social media time suck. You could learn how
Mm-hmm.
to redesign a website. I mean, like honestly, guys, I did that. That is a whoa, that is a pain in the neck. I know Troy has too. What web design, like honestly, that's why there's
Mm-hmm.
people that do that full time. Um, changing logos, like spending time designing a logo. Like all these are all like really big time sucks. But the activities that will create results for you are when you build an build an email list, network with readers, um, produce another book, build
Mm-hmm.
relationships with influencers, or go on podcasts that are going to help you build your communities, create reader connections, like by creating reader magnets, or those ways to like interact with them. Those are a lot more productive in terms of like the marketing side of things. And then on the publishing
Right.
side, learning all the trim sizes that are available to KDP and Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
You don't need to know all that. Learning how
Please
to
don't.
like acquire fonts and like do the, what kind of font size is the best kind to use on your cover. Like metadata is again another one of those huge time sucks. There are professionals out there that spend like their whole lives learning how to tweak metadata. Like, do you really want to be that? Do you want to be a metadata expert, or do you want to be a writer? Well, on the publishing side
Right.
of things, maybe you need to spend more time on the book quality, like the writing, the story quality, right? Like maybe
Right.
on just understanding and knowing how your cover can maybe attract the right reader, positioning in the market, or just learning who your audience is and how to write better to that audience. Those are more productive on the publishing side of things than maybe going down those huge rabbit holes. So I
Right.
just want you to focus more on that. On the author business side, which is again one of the things that I specialize on, but like 80% of your time you could be like going to conventions, writing newsletters, going like learning how to do Amazon ads, like all the speaking engagements, all those things. They're so time consuming and money consuming. But like ask yourself, how much stress are you creating for yourself, and then maybe spend less time on the things that are causing more stress. Social media
Right.
is a huge stress suck. um Comparison, Troy is going to talk about the
Yeah.
comparison trap
Oh, the
next month.
comparison trap.
That's a
Yeah, and
huge
which relates
frustration.
directly to this. And
Yeah.
part of the thing is this is that so one of the things we should talk about on this podcast at some point is no stress marketing. You don't have to do
Mhm.
marketing that's stressful for you if you can figure out how to do marketing that works for you
Works
with
for
your
you.
personality type and actually who you are. So things that you like to do anyway,
Right.
right? Maybe you don't like to be on TikTok with your face. Hey, then don't. But if you got
Don't.
a cute dog and you like to do funny dances related to your books, hey, go for it because
Go
you're going
for
to
it.
be popular. You're going to win
You want to
there,
do it.
right? There, if that's what you want to do, there are things you can do to win. But here's the thing. So here's number one on my list. Writing a great book is necessary,
Yeah.
but writing a great book is not sufficient.
Right.
Writing a great book is necessary. And this goes to Stacy's hiring a team and to
Hmm.
all of those things. You must constantly work on perfecting your craft and you must write a great book. Now, it was for a while that we went through this rapid release phase where a minimum viable product book strategy was what people were offering. It didn't have to be great, just had to be good enough, a good enough story. And if you put them out there often enough, you built a huge following. There was a lot of churn in that following because your books weren't great, they were
Right.
just good. But hey, that was okay
And
because you're spending
there's
60% of your income on
still
ads.
people
So who cares?
operating on this model. But it
There
is
are, but they have a problem.
slowly, yeah, it's
Well, it is
slowly weeding himself out.
rapidly
Hmm.
becoming a problem
Right.
because I can create a minimum viable product with a little help from a human and a little help from AI, and I can create it really, really fast.
Hmm.
The problem is now readers are becoming more savvy, as they always
And
do.
picky.
And so they are looking for greatness, not goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means, greatness relates to not that your grammar and spelling and all that are perfect, but it relates to authenticity and truly human stories. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to argue the point here about whether you can still do MVP products with AI. And I'm also not going to tell you that if you spend time using AI as an assistant and you are the primary human driver of that, that you cannot create human focused stories with true emotion. Not saying that. That's just different discussions
Different
about author
discussions.
voice
Mm-hmm.
for a different time. But the point is, no matter how you create it, creating a great book is necessary, but it's not enough. Okay, you're going to have to do some efforts to build your micro community. And what this means in reality, I'm going to put it this way because I wrote this down and now I can't think of it without reading it. Okay. The goal isn't to fight the power law, is to understand which side of the curve you're on and build the assets that compound over time and help you build a career.
Perfect.
And those assets are things that relate to your micro community, super fans, your email list. It is not building an awesome and amazing Facebook ad strategy.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
can be helpful and that can be a part of this, but that is not what I'm talking
And
about.
it is not
You want to
something you do
build
daily.
assets.
Right.
Audience is one, right? To build an audience, how are you going to build an audience? Where are you going to write more stuff so that more people can discover you? And you're going to write
Mm-hmm.
all good stuff so that when they discover you, regardless of which book of yours that they find something that's good,
Right.
that they like, that is not a minimum viable product, but you've created a great book. The second thing is backlist. Well, how do you do that? Well, you keep writing books. You
Right.
can't create a backlist immediately. You have to do it over time. And then building your author platform, the things that you own that we talk about all the time, which is your website and your email list. Those things still work today, regardless of how far you think you're going to go in the publishing industry. In fact, all of those things determine how large you can build your micro community and how much of a living you can make. It's that simple. Now, if you
That
say, well,
simple.
I only write one book a year, so it's going to take me 10 years to create my backlist. Awesome.
Go
I
for it.
hope you're doing really successfully in 10 years with your awesome backlist, and that has given you lots of time to build an audience and lots of time to refine your platform.
Quality was
Okay.
never built
Nothing,
quickly.
yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with taking your time. Slow down and take your time. Because you also have to understand that the authors that beat the curve aren't necessarily the best writers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They understand the game early. They maybe got a little bit lucky with some of the things that they've done, but they're also doing those things of constantly building an audience, constantly building a backlist, and constantly working on their platform. And they get discovered because of that process,
Right.
right? The part that you have to understand is you rarely will get discovered in spite of that process. Usually that those core parts of that process are something that everyone has to do. And if it results in a micro community where you're happy, you're balanced, you have a balanced life and you're making a good living, awesome. If if it results in that you get discovered by a big New York publisher, they put a whole bunch of marketing behind your book and you're number one New York
That's
Times
awesome.
bestseller,
Well
awesome.
done. Mm-hmm.
But well done, but that is luck, not skill. And it comes because you built the platform, because you put the work in, and they found you,
Right. Because
right?
that's now
That
how it's working.
that is
Mm-hmm.
just how things work in this industry now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they work. We may
Mm-hmm.
not like it, we may not love it, we may even hate it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
just the way that it works.
Yeah.
So those are the simple things. Write a better book and work on those three core things. Don't everything else, there are other things that can be useful, but for a large part, they are distractions. And if you're not writing full time, so you don't have hours of your time, which even when you're writing full time, you don't have hours on your hands, just to dispel that myth, but that's another podcast, right? But concentrate on those three things. You're ensured to have some form of success. That is a formula that can win you at least enough to make a certain amount of money or maybe a moderate living, depends on how much time you take and what you want to do with those things. But stop defining success as New York Times, USA Today bestseller lists. Forget about it. If it happens, awesome. If it doesn't, hey, you can still be happy, still be writing, still be doing the
Or
things that you love.
if that is your definition of success, understand and know what it actually takes there so that when you make those strides towards that goal, you understand and know what those benchmarks are so that you don't get frustrated, because just throwing it out there, it's like Troy said, it's more difficult than what people think it is, or there is more process that's involved with that. And
Mhm.
and some of those things, like he said, are things that you cannot control. So you have to know what those things are so that you understand and know when those opportunities present themselves. It's
Right.
just one of those things
Let
that you
me
just have to understand.
let me give you just one final example of a guy who came to me. So a guy who came to me, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to just apologize in advance for using you as an example, but I'm not going to use your name. Um, but he came to me with in either an AI or a Kindle Create generated cover, with a manuscript, and with this idea of I need someone right now to redo the interior of this book. The interior is very important because this is a Hugo Award winning novel. I want this
Right.
to
I
be win a
remember.
Hugo Award, right? And he goes, so the presentation of the interior is super important, and I need help uploading it to all the retailers. But the cover is done. The cover is great. Okay, first of all, the cover was not done. It was not great. Second of all, the manuscript was not ready for formatting.
Right.
It needed an editor first. But the biggest problem with all that was he wanted Hugo Award winning success today and guaranteed. And I can tell you that most Hugo Award winning novels were written over a relatively long period of time. They have the best cover designers around. The interior formatting does not matter nearly as much as this man thinks that it does for those type of awards and those type of judges. But to be an indie author and win a Hugo Award means that you have to sell a lot of copies of your book to get people's attention. And so for that to happen, it has to be the best. None of that is instant, right?
Yeah.
None
And,
of it is fast.
I've had some
None
people
of it is.
ask for specific awards that are impossible to get as indie, because those award
They
organizations,
don't even accept indie
they don't accept
titles.
it indie titles. So you like, but the thing is like knowledge is power, right? We've heard this since we were infantile cavemen. Knowledge is power. Like, you have to know what you know and what you don't know in order to get ahead in this life. And that is really, really, it can't be emphasized enough in this business. So don't just throw words around like and say, well, I want this, I want this, I want this, because you're playing that comparison game, or you think that's the
Mhm.
definition of success in this business. It's not. And one of the first things that I always do with my clients is I always ask them to find their why, actually establish what they are doing this for, because that is more important than anything else as you go forward in this business. And oftentimes, identifying and knowing what that why is also to help you understand and disrupt this power law, right? To help you understand and
Right,
know what it is you're actually trying to accomplish and what your definition is of success is, and why it's not what you think it is.
right.
Because that is the most important thing you need to understand going forward in this business. So really, we didn't want to disrupt your ideas or make you think that this, like, you don't even need to try because it's no point, like that's not what this was
No,
about. This was 100% really just helping you understand and know how to distribute your time, effort, and brain power in your business so that you can, one, be productive, and two, not fight against things that you can't control. I hope
right.
that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hardest part of this is to say, because the point I really want you to take away from this is not that there's a power law and I'm just constantly fighting against it,
Yeah.
but that you don't have to fight the power law if you
Hmm.
just simply redefine your definition of success. But what that means is those three core things that we talked about, you still need to put effort into those things.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
100%.
not putting any effort in is the surest way to ensure failure.
Exactly.
Putting in effort is the surest way to put you in a position where you can achieve spectacular success, but understanding at the same time that achieving just normal success is perfectly within reach.
And
Because I
also
guarantee,
very much applauded in this business.
well, yes, and I mean, I guarantee you that every single writer that you've seen that has some kind of success has an audience, a backlist, and a platform.
Hmm.
All of them. Now they don't all like they're not those things aren't created equal, and there are all kinds of different things that you can do related to that. But the point is that they found people that'll read their books and pay for them. They have a backlist, so they have more than one book for people to choose from. And they have a platform where people can find them and discover them as an author as well as discovering their books.
You know
I
what's
guarantee they
funny?
have those three things, but those three things are maybe at different levels for different authors with different levels of success. But if they're slogging away, making a living at it, then they have those three things. They
This
have
is
them.
this is very much like that viral principle, right? Like going viral on the internet, going viral on social media, going viral on YouTube. It's very interesting how that all kind of plays out.
Hmm.
This is books going viral. First of all, like just it's very rare, but I was thinking about that as you were speaking because it was making me laugh how many times even in this business, how much you and I read, how much you and I like, like how much this world just like envelops us, right? How many times I've been approached by authors who say things like, "Hey, I've just read this book by so and so. Have you read that? Or do you know who that is?" And I don't. Like,
And I
I
don't.
more often than not, when somebody asks me about a book that they've read or that an author that they are like that they love know and love, very rarely do I also know that name. My
Hmm.
best friend who is a prolific reader, like she reads more than anybody I know, she's constantly reading new authors,
Hmm.
constantly, just always. And she'll ask me, I just read this book by so and so, and it's somebody I've never heard of before, but it's a
Yeah.
book that is so well reviewed, and they're like monstrously like successful, like
Hmm.
hugely successful. I've never heard of them, but that's kind of just like what you need to know. Like there are many, many,
That's
many,
kind of the
many
way it
people,
is.
and yeah,
I mean,
it's okay. It's
I'll use a
okay.
viral example to kind of close things out because most of you know who, if you have been around, I don't know, more than 7 seconds in the publishing world, you know about Crawler
Dungeon
Carl,
Crawler Crawl. Who,
which
by the
is a
way,
lit RPG
I
thing.
need to tell you, my best friend she's book 4 in. She is like addicted. She picked that up the
Oh,
other day and she is like fully addicted. So
there are
yeah, it's
people that I
funny.
know who I would
And
not
she does
expect to
not her
read this
genre.
and would not expect to listen to it but on audiobook, but they do. I'm one
Yeah.
of them. This is
Yeah.
not my genre. Book 8 came out about a week and a half ago at like midnight on some day.
Yep.
Some friends of mine literally got it as soon as it dropped and
Yep.
read it,
She is so
right?
addicted to this. So
I
I just
mean,
had to plug
and
that because I thought that
but
was so funny.
here's the thing, it's lit RPG, it's outside of most people's genre, but a lot of people are reading it and enjoying it even though it's outside their genre. And so it has gone viral to an extent where there's bumper
There's
stickers, there
very
are
few
shirts,
people.
there are all kinds of things. There are very few people that have not heard of what this is. If you think about things like Harry Potter and Twilight and things
Right.
like that, like those things went viral and more people heard of them. There's not a lot of people that necessarily read about wizards in schools on a
Right.
normal basis, right?
I
But
can't tell you
Harry
how many
Potter
people have
opened a
never
door
read
for
Harry
them,
Potter books, but they know who Harry Potter books,
but they know
like they
who
know them.
they
So
know of them. So
yeah.
here's the thing. It's not that your stuff will never go viral. It's like that before that went viral, those authors had an audience, they had a backlist, and they had
Hmm.
a platform. I mean, it's just those things are like they have put in some work at that
Right.
point before they go viral, right? It is
Right.
not something that went viral overnight. There's no such thing as overnight success,
Right.
right? Overnight success usually takes 10 or 20 years of hard work.
Right.
So just, I mean, here's the
Just
thing, put in the
put the
work,
work, put in the
but
work.
lower your expectations to reality. And if you do end up going viral, fantastic,
Fan-freaking-tastic.
fantastic, but don't count on it to pay your bills.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so I hope that that's encouraging. I hope you guys feel encouraged. We really we are cheering for you 100%. Like, we love every one of you. We understand that this is not an easy business, but we are here for it. We get it. We've had multiple accounts and reasons to quit, and we just don't, because we
Yes.
really do love this business.
Yes.
It is in our hearts and souls. Bleed we bleed ink. But I want you guys to know that. So whatever you may be struggling with, whatever that, maybe, put it in the comments. We're happy to help, at least, cheer you on when you need it. There's been several of you that have already commented in the past that we're so proud of you and what you guys are accomplishing, and we understand the frustrations. Troy, we should probably talk about deadlines. I know that that's something that one
Oh,
particular
yes.
commenter
I
made a comment about. Did you
Yes,
see
we
that?
should
Yeah.
talk about deadlines. Deadlines, specifically deadlines for indie authors. We can
Yeah.
include publishing, traditional publishing, but that's a little bit different. We should talk about it for indie authors.
So you guys can have
The only
reasonable
last
time
comment
expectations.
about this topic that I'll say is the only thing in life that's fair, as my grandfather taught me, is a baseball hit between first and third. Nothing else in life is fair. Nothing else in life is fair.
That's
So,
awesome.
if you're looking for equality somewhere, it's
This is
just
just not.
unfortunately just
Yeah.
not the place for it. But this is the thing. I often tell people this is the hardest and most awful and most amazing industry you can be involved in. All of those things
Mm-hmm.
are true at the exact same time, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It Yet it is some of the most difficult things, and I've been through some of the most difficult challenges as far as career and financial wise in this industry. And I still wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm still
Right.
here doing the same things, doing all
Exactly.
that stuff. So all of that, just understand we love you. We want to encourage you in this business, but I want you to get a real picture of what it is and set your expectations and then put in the work.
Put in the work.
That's all.
Put in the work. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow.
Yeah. Please do that too.
We would
Because we're
love
putting
to
in
see
the
you
work.
again. We're putting
We're
in the
putting in
work.
the work.
But we do really appreciate all of you guys. Troy and I are going to be back next week. Maybe we'll be talking about the deadlines. That'll be fun if we can remember
Yep.
that that's what we were wanting to talk about. And then
I'll make a
we
note.
hope,
Put it in my
yeah.
phone.
And then make plans, spend time with your families and your friends. Do things that are fun. It counts. It really
It
counts.
counts.
We only have so much time on this earth, guys. Let's make the most of it. I appreciate all of you. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Everybody, remember to keep reading, keep writing, stay weird. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.